go to Houston. Josh in H-Town. Hey, Josh, how are you?
I'm doing great. Jim, I want to apologize to you directly. I sent out a tweet on Friday talking about how terrible the Smackoff competitors were, and I don't want that to reflect poorly on how great some of the guys were. I'm sorry. Cal in Vegas, Brad in Corona, Leth in Laguna, Sean the Cablinasian, one of my friends, all brought the heat like geriatrics on a racquetball court. But what was going on with some of that lineup, man? I got to talk about Mike and Indy. That's what I'm coming here for. Some of that was god-awful. And no one takes the I have a terrible idea, but I'm going to do it anyway cake more than Mike and Indy. I personally called out Mike and Indy on Twitter and in that tweet, Jim, and 3 days later he found it and decided to respond. Do you know what that means, Jim? 3 days later, Mike decided to search his own name out on Twitter, scroll through every single mention, and choose to respond to me. Just like Jesus rose from the grave after 3 days, hunchback, redneck, Jesus Mike rose from his mom's basement in backwoods Indianapolis and gathered his army of Midwest beer belly cupcake crushing henchmen to attack a Smackoff nobody. That's where he's at in his Smackoff career, Jim. Mike's like the Kevin Durant on his burner account yelling at fans of Smackoff competitors. Mike's like the boomer who just started yelling at everyone about how MTV and rock music are going to be the downfall of society. Jesus, Jim. 3 days in 2020 is like 5 years in normal time since we're stuck in this portal of hell where a week feels like a month and a month feels like a year. But I guess Mike has been living that. I've been binge watching reruns of Leave It to Beaver with my mom life for a while, so I guess he doesn't really know the difference. Mike might as well be complaining about how the movie Biodome doesn't accurately represent today's youth when he's crying on Twitter 3 days after he scripted his bit and still managed to screw it up.
That's not a good call. No.
Josh, bro,
I don't like that call.
I didn't take offense to anything you said in particular, but that read was just exhausting. You're sucking the life out of me with that, man. Again, the thing about the Smackoff, this goes back to some of you who are trying to make the argument that put a time limit. We don't gimmick it up. Although gimmicks did win a couple of them. But we don't gimmick up the Smackoff with things like time limits, shot clocks. We don't need to do that. You just got to make your point. And if you have lots of points to make, that's fine, but make your point. You know, your whole point about in 2020, 3 days feels like 5 years, fair enough. But sometimes a 2-minute call feels like 20 minutes in 2020.